This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Welcome to the midweek Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. I want to point out for those of you who didn't listen, especially Brian, you may not be aware of this, NPR GPS, and the reason I call him that is that people have said his introduction to this show is very NPR reminiscent. Okay. And so we've gone back to Awesome Dawson.
Fair enough.
Right? Okay.
No, smart move.
Look at that. Brian doesn't even pile on, Gary. He just
No,
I defend Gary because no good deed goes unpunished. Right, Gary? You try to jump in and everyone's like, oh, Gary, you. Like, why do you even bother?
Well, speaking of good deeds, we found a very capable professional VO artist who is near and dear to our hearts, and he graciously stepped in and recorded a stellar new intro and outro for the Bryan and Gina Show. So please do go subscribe to that anywhere you get podcasts or at youtube.com/Los Angeles Magazine Videos.
I may have checked the charts and seen that you guys are holding steady top 50 show, by the way.
Yes, we
are. Also, Mark, I'm reticent to pile on Gary for anything because now I'm privy to see how hard he works behind the scenes and how run ragged the poor guy is by the likes of he should not be named. But go easy on Gary, for God's sake.
I love it. Well, so we're going to do a little potpourri today. With Gina and Brian and get their impressions on the trial of the century, which is happening in Utah right now. Brian, are you aware of this trial?
I've been made aware in the last hour. Yeah, we did a pretty solid rundown of what's going on. I guess my first question legally for the legal expert here, Gary, is it not like accepted implied risk when you're on a ski slope that you're going to run into people once in a while? I assumed it was. Well,
the doctrine is assumption of the risk. And apparently in Utah, it does not apply to the slopes. Otherwise, we would not have had what may be a slow motion. You know how they always talk about a slow motion car crash attracting your attention? This has been like nothing I have ever seen. It's almost a trial version of Can You Top This?
and aren't Apple and Moses, the children, supposed to take the stand?
Supposedly there are precipient eyewitnesses.
I can't wait.
Gary's got 3 clips for us to run through. So, Gary, clip number 1.
Let's do it.
I have a question.
I wrote, I'm famous because it's cool that I had a collision with a celebrity. Was that your thinking at the time? And you said yes. Do you deny it?
Not if you have it on record, no. I don't deny it. I don't remember it. But
well, let's go to page 15. Can you bring that up? Move to publish the deposition.
Your Honor, he said he doesn't deny it, so why are we publishing?
Because he earlier denied it.
I'll overrule the objection and permit that portion of the deposition to be published.
May I ask when this happened?
Sure. Like 1 hour ago, 2 hours ago, you told this jury, I've never thought it was cool that I had a collision with a celebrity. Do you recall that?
Yeah, yes, I guess I did say that, absolutely.
And that's not a true statement, is it? You have said this in your deposition, true?
Honestly, I don't ever remember saying it.
Bring it up whenever you can.
I don't doubt you. I misspeak a lot.
Okay, this is page 15, line 5 through 8. So the words I'm famous, this is my question, seem to say I think it's cool that I had a collision with a celebrity. Was that your thinking at the time? And your answer was yes. I guess, yes. Now let's go to your weight. You testified today that you were 163 and 5'5". True?
Yes, I did.
And do you agree that at your deposition you told me you were 175 to 180 and 5'8"? Yes or no? Yes or no?
A qualified yes.
No, I don't want to qualify. Did you tell me that? Like I said, how much do you weigh? And you said 175, 80. How much did you weigh? And then you said 5'8". How high are you? How tall are you? 3 inches different, right?
I just found that out. I didn't realize. I've had people telling me that.
You told this jury that at the time of the accident you were 163 and 5'5". Did you not, like 2 hours ago?
I did, yes.
Okay. The weight, I could give him the weight.
Yes.
You know, it's like pull out your driver's license and what your weight is. The height, I don't know. Gina, you have a comment on that?
If I was on the stand and swore on a stack of Bibles and they said, "What's your weight?" I would take a cyanide pill.
Would you? No, or you'd invoke the fifth.
Absolutely.
Right.
As someone whose height comes up often in polite conversation, if someone were to ask me if I'm 6'4", I would not correct them. If they were to ask me if I was 6'5", I would not correct them. If they said I was 6'1", I'd be correcting them.
And I get it, right? Because you want to seem meeker and smaller, that she could have caused you more damage the smaller you are. Was that the point?
I think it's also because there's been so much testimony, or at least there's been playing about this big collision that she had with a big man behind her.
Right.
And she's 5'10" and he's trying to pretend to be 5'5". I don't know. By the way, this lawyer, I wish I had his name, has gotten quite a bit of criticism for the $1. The dollar. But that was that's a workmanlike cross-examination any way you cut it. I mean, he nailed him in.
But on the celebrity, like, do you think it's cool that you ran into a celebrity? What does it matter? You could either have been run into and still be like, well, the downside is I got slammed into. The upside is it was Gwyneth Paltrow. What does that matter? Because
he was trying to act like he had denied it. That's what that argument, that little skirmish was. The skirmish was they were saying you couldn't bring in the sworn deposition testimony because he had not denied it. And he clearly had denied it an hour or two ago. So that's what's called impeachment. It was a way to get in there. And what you want to do, and what they're building towards, is a crescendo of being able to argue later on is this guy will say anything at any point in order to manipulate what happened in order to get a payday. That's going to be the argument.
That's interesting. We talked about, we posited on our LA Magazine podcast, the Bryan and Gina Show, that much like doctors, I assume you have some perspective into this, there are degrees of lawyers. I mean, medical and law degrees. I mean, some are just better than others. Some are more skilled. Some are better at this and better at that. You must do. What do you see in this guy? Is this, or in the lawyers in this case?
I always invoke my father, who's my hero, and he used to have a couple of lines about this. Number one is he could never understand. He says, "I'll never understand how people pick their lawyers. I saw a billboard, or I heard my gardener's brother had an aunt who got $70 million because they tripped, or some other incomprehensible thing." Having said that, one of the cases that changed the trajectory of my career was Susan McDougal, who was Bill Clinton's erstwhile business partner. And I had gone down to the jail to meet her, and I thought, boy, I was impressive, and she liked everything about me and decided to hire me. And she later told me, after we had won the case, that the reason she selected me is she liked my shoes.
All right.
That just showed. You never know. But you're absolutely right. There are degrees of lawyers, just like if you go to a doctor, if you go to an oncologist, and I use this with clients all the time, when they go to an oncologist and the oncologist tells you something, and it's somebody who, Bryan, you can understand this, it's your life. It's I remember when my father had cancer and we went to doctors, I was not number one thinking about how much is he going to charge me? I mean, first and foremost, that's not your concern, because what are you going to do with your money anyway?
Right.
And then second of all is I want to know what results this person has had. I want to see what they've done in similar situations. Apparently with lawyers, all of that goes out the window.
Yeah, you want to find someone, I imagine, in the lawyer department as well. But when, in selecting or looking at doctors or healthcare providers, you want someone who inspires confidence, someone who seems competent and inspires confidence in you. You're like, yeah, this is the person I want defending my life, fighting for my life, whatever it is. You want that person to inspire confidence.
Well, I have a suspicion in a case like this, that insurance companies are selecting the lawyers, but that's just my cynical self. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Now you think that the Gwyneth's lawyer is redeeming himself because after the dollar dance, like at the wedding, he really looked like he may have nipped at the cooking sherry, as my mom would say.
Well, as someone who goes to quite a few Armenian weddings where they're showering $1 bills on the dance floor, I can relate to that. But yes,
Yeah.
he was doing a workmanlike job on impeaching the witness. And then I think Gary, and by the way, the reason I also, if somebody asks on the insurance company, is the lawyer, the baby who was wearing the baby blue.
Sherry Terry.
Yeah. She mentioned that she wasn't in the case until the cross complaint by Gwyneth, which leads me to believe the cross complaint was tendered to an insurance company, at which point they found her, and she apparently does insurance defense based on her resume. So I'm guessing that that's how she was found or injected here.
And I'm not going to ask if she did. I'm going to ask how long was it before she got Gwyneth's autograph afterwards in a selfie? Because that woman was smitten, as we've talked about.
And by the way, on both sides here, everybody seems to be very concerned about height.
Yes.
Yeah, she was talking about her this height of her heels, and she was jealous of Gwyneth being 5'10". It's just this is not the civil justice system's finest day, or week, or month. Gary, you have one more before we exit out of here?
Yes, I do.
I did not yell. First of all, I was trying to observe what was happening, and I took off my skis. I came around to try to untangle them. I did not yell at Mr. Sanderson.
Sorry, I'm going to pause it for a second just to point out for anyone who's not familiar, this was the ski instructor that Gwyneth and her family had hired to give them private lessons on the mountain that day.
Okay.
Do you ever teach group lessons?
I do.
And do sometimes the students spread out?
At Deer Valley, private rotation instructors teach max fours, which means there's no more than 4 people in your group. So I do teach those. As far as spreading out, you try to keep your group as close together as possible, but there are tasks where they may go down one at a time and things like that.
Well, if a student goes far away, don't you yell at that student to come get back in line? Don't you have to holler at them?
I don't yell. I don't have
How would they hear you then?
We ski down to them.
Well, then the other students go another direction. You never raise your voice at Deer Valley? Is that your policy?
If I raise my voice, I lose my voice very quickly. I can't yell. As far as talking to students, you try to maintain a class situation where we will stop at certain places. We'll gather together. We try to always gather at the edge of the run so we're out of the line of traffic. But no, I don't go around yelling all over the resort.
I didn't say that. I just said, do you ever yell once at a student who might be too far away from your group and you want them to come back?
No, they can't come back. If they're below you, you have to go to them.
That's ridiculous.
They're not going to come up the hill.
You can't say, hey, come back over here, Bill.
No.
Oh, I might. If they're just across the run, I will say things like that. But I'm not yelling.
You're whispering? Or
no, I'm talking in the normal voice.
But if there's a lift machinery or there's noise or something, you never raise your voice at all while you're ski instructing?
This is getting a little silly, don't you think?
This is a little laborious.
I was going to say, by the way, talk about a witness owning you. I mean, he should have sat down when the guy says, are you going to come back up the hill? I just skied down the hill.
I love this guy.
It's been a minute since I skied, but I've never seen anyone ski up a hill.
Was this guy a jury consultant before he retired and started to become a street ski instructor? Because, I mean, that was just the level of poise that he kept throughout that. It was great.
And I thought it was funny when he said, if I yelled all the time, I wouldn't keep my voice. I thought he was going to say I wouldn't keep my job. You don't go around screaming at Gwyneth Paltrow's children. I'm sorry, at a very expensive resort. No, you don't yell at anyone. Everybody knows that. But I love this guy. I want him to adopt me.
Yep. He's very avuncular. I mean,
yes.
And as a witness, that you couldn't send to central casting to get a better witness. And so I think on that note, we'll do it as ESPN style. Who's winning the case? It's now advantage Gwyneth Paltrow. So
100%.
by the way, she's only GP. We've got GPS here.
Right.
On that note, I will encourage everybody to go watch the Bryan and Gina Show, even though, Brian, don't get offended. I often call it the Gina and Bryan Show.
The Gab.
That's understandable.
Well,
Okay.
or alternatively, the GBS show. There you
Yeah.
go. GPS and GBS.
Sure.
I love it. Well, you guys drop twice a week?
Yes, we do. Twice a week.
So far.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, you're doing the Lord's work here in LA, and I appreciate it. And thank you both.
You're the
Bud,
best,
thank
Mark.
you. Good
Thank
talking
you.
to you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Mark. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast.